Dear Grownups, if your mornings feel like a whirlwind of chaos and reminders, lost shoes, forgotten homework, I feel you and you're not alone. I feel like that's a lot of families' typical mornings. But I'm going to share with you one of my favorite tools to make the mornings a little bit smoother for both the children and the grownups in the house. It is my favorite thing, a visual schedule. So what is this visual schedule? A visual schedule can be used for many different things. What you do is you kind of take the big task and you break it down into smaller pieces, and then you create a visual representation of that. So that way the child can see what is expected, what is the routine, and the adult doesn't have to do all of the talking and all of the nagging to get those things accomplished. Usually you take pictures and you'll pair it with words, and that also helps with some pre-literacy skills as well. The morning schedule that I'm going to show you is kind of like a checklist of things that need to be done. My checklist isn't in any particular order, but it does help for children to read from left to right. Why do visual schedules work? We know that kids thrive on predictability and routine. Visuals can help reduce anxiety, and it supports independence, so children have more autonomy. They work beautifully for young children, pre-readers, and particularly for children who are neurodivergent, or just children who need some help staying on track. One of the reasons that I like visual schedules is it's no longer me in charge in the morning. I can say, well, let's check your schedule. And so it's not mom telling them what needs to be done, and I'm not the nag in the morning. I can just say, what's next? And we can check the schedule. Where do you get a visual schedule? Well, you absolutely could make your own, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. If you don't want to make your own, there are visual schedules on the Branch and Blossom boutique that you can buy, and I'll put the links in the show notes. That way you can just print one off today. I like to laminate mine because I'll put mine in the bathroom. I'll put mine on the fridge, just places where they could maybe get some spillage and everything is still fine at the end of the day. If you're going to make your own visual schedule, or even if you want me to help you make a visual schedule, what you first need to do is kind of pay attention during your daily morning routine and see what are all of the steps that you have your child take. Don't get too nitpicky. You don't want to have a million steps on there. Mine has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we've added 7 because we had to add deodorant to the list as my kids have gotten older. But 5 to 7 steps is probably enough for one visual schedule. You could absolutely draw your own pictures. We have made a visual schedule for how to take a shower that my oldest son drew stick figures for my youngest son when he wanted to learn how to take a shower on his own. So you absolutely could draw your own visual schedule. You could use clip art. There are so many different computer programs now, free versions. I love Canva. I use Canva a lot for things. You could use clip art. What I would suggest is when you are using clip art is that you use something that is very clean. If it's too busy, that makes it difficult for the child to see what the action is that they need to be carrying out. I like to pair pictures with words because that does help children understand that the words have meaning, and it's just another exposure to that printed word. In my visual schedules, I use Boardmaker symbols. Boardmaker is a program. I'm a licensed user and a licensed maker. I like Boardmaker because it's what schools use and a lot of AAC devices use also. So it becomes kind of a universal language in itself. You absolutely could take photographs of your child doing the different steps of their morning routine. I would suggest using a program or using your iPhone now that you can do that to take the background out of the pictures just so it's more clear and you get to see what the child is doing and there's not all of the background information in the back for the child to sift through. This is especially helpful for children who have some sensory needs or have some attention needs where it's hard for them to pay attention to the meaning behind the photo. I would also suggest, if you are using a photograph, to be very careful about certain things. So if you have a photograph of your child using a red toothbrush, if your child is very bound by routine and rigid in some of those things, if it's time to switch a toothbrush and you now have a green toothbrush, that may be an issue when they're consulting their visual schedule because the toothbrush does not look like the toothbrush they use. It's a little bit different when you use clip art and board maker symbols because they kind of understand that this is more abstract. When you have a photograph, it becomes very concrete to them and it kind of seals the deal. So be careful about colors of toothbrushes, be careful about what clothes you're having them put on, especially when seasons change. You may not want to have a picture of your child putting on pants if you want them to wear shorts that day. You may not want a picture of a child putting on shorts if you want them to wear pants that day. You may have to switch those things out for seasons. Just kind of understand that. When you have more kind of ambiguous or general clip art, then children sometimes just make that leap themselves. My visual schedule has things like use the bathroom, eat breakfast, brush teeth, wash face, get dressed, brush hair. And like I said, now that my kids are older, we've had to put on deodorant to that list too. As you create your visual schedule, it'll be up to you and your child kind of how your morning looks to decide if things need to be in a sequential order or not. Now that you've either made a visual schedule or you purchased a visual schedule, you're ready to put it up in your environment. I suggest putting it in the high traffic areas. So have one in the bathroom so that way you can consult it in the bathroom, or maybe have it on the breakfast table, wherever your child is going to see it. Just putting it out into the environment is not enough. They're not going to just know what to do just because you've miraculously put this visual schedule out there. Show them the steps as you remind them to do things. Let's go use the bathroom, and you can show them the bathroom. All right, now that we're done, let's go eat some breakfast. And as you're doing the different steps of the morning routine, you're pointing out the things that you're doing as you go along. And then the next couple of days, as you're doing this, you can kind of ask them, what does our visual schedule say that we should do next? You're right, we have to go brush our teeth. Let's go brush our teeth and then see what's next. Oh, you're right, now we're gonna wash our face. So you can have them kind of show you what's next. As they get a little bit more competent and depending on their age, they can be in charge of kind of consulting the schedule as they go along. One of the great things though I like is that you're not constantly saying, did you brush your teeth? Did you do this? You can just have them, check your schedule, see what's next, and have them go through. If this is too much for your child, and this could be very overwhelming to have 7 or 6 things on a list, you could absolutely cut these apart and show them one task at a time. Go to the bathroom, and then when they're done with the bathroom, go brush your teeth. Go do this. I would say, bathroom is on here and there's not hand washing and all of that. That's because for my children, we have already tackled the bathrooming routine. So they already knew. We go to the bathroom, then we wash our hands. We know all of the steps to the bathroom. If you're not here yet, you could have your whole other schedule just for bathrooming if you need that. But if this is still too much, you could absolutely cut these into smaller squares. So that way they have just one square at a time. You could graduate to using a first then schedule for a child. So you could have something like this. You could take your squares for your visual schedule and put Velcro on the back and put them on the first then chart. So the way a first then chart works is you tell the child what's the first step and then what's the next step. First, we're going to clean up, then we're going to have snack. You could absolutely switch it around. First, we're going to wash our face, then we're going to get dressed. So it just tells them, kind of takes that big schedule and breaks it down into 2 steps for them. You could absolutely have these pieces all Velcroed that they put them onto the visual schedule as they complete them, or they take them off as they complete them also. What I have found is that is just too many pieces in my house to keep track of. So one of the ways if you need to track your progress along the visual schedule is you could use something very simple as a clothespin. So they could clothespin which step is next, or they could clothespin every part that is done, however it works for your child. The biggest thing you need to remember though is whatever you start with, that's what you need to be consistent as you use your visual schedule, because that will help you to implement it. If your child resists using the visual schedule, that's totally normal. This is a new skill and it's not going to happen overnight. Give it some time, be consistent. You'll hear me say that all the time. You're probably really tired of hearing me say, give it some time. Everything's going to take a little bit of time to do. In addition to giving it some time, if you have someone who can model how to use it, that is not you, even better. If you have older siblings in the house who can walk through the morning routine as they do it and kind of show their younger siblings that they're doing these things. Like, oh, I've already brushed my teeth. Now I'm going to go wash my face. I'm going to go get dressed now, and then I am going to brush my hair. Whatever your visual schedule steps are, they can kind of talk through that, narrate that as they point to what they're doing, because older siblings are just kind of like peer models as well. They carry a lot more weight than mom or dad, and that's okay. They are a lot cooler than mom or dad. If mom or dad is the only people that you have, absolutely walk through your visual schedule as you get ready too. Like, oh my goodness, I washed my face, but I forgot to brush my teeth. I'm going to run back in there and brush my teeth. Maybe I should use a clip next time so I remember if I've done it. Kind of talking and narrating those things so that way the children become aware that we all make mistakes, we all forget things, and visual schedules help us too. Visual schedules aren't just about structure and getting children to do what we want them to do. Of course, we want them to do all of these things because it's taking care of their body and preparing them for the day. Visual schedules also help them build independence and build confidence. In addition, it's kind of protecting that relationship that you have with your child and prevents all of that nagging and that constant womp, womp, womp. I call it the Charlie Brown voice, although I say that to my college students, and a lot of them are so young that they don't even know what that is yet anymore. But it does eliminate some of that auditory input that we as grown-ups give way too much of. We can start to use things that are more concrete for children, more visual for those children that learn best that way. If you try this at home, or if you try a visual schedule in your classroom, circle back and let me know how it went. If there are items on this morning schedule that you need, let me know. I'd be happy to make that for you. If you found this helpful, definitely share it with a friend, another mom, another teacher, any grown-up who needs a calmer morning. Thanks for joining into this episode of Dear Grownups.